All right, here we go. While I love listening to Zapman talk for hours and hours, I want to get to these picks and bans. Guys, this is going to be a big matchup. LG Direwolves from Australia, Allegiance from North America. Who will come out on top? Sylvanas is going to go right away there for Direwolves.
Yeah, Sylvanas has been a really important pick as far as the healing meta that's been predominant in NA ever since the group and super regional stages. And so you can tell right away, both sides just automatically opting, you know, no Ra, no Terra, no Sylvanas. They really want to try and avoid as much healing as possible.
Yeah, the healing is being completely taken off the board right now. Good bans out from Direwolves. Terra obviously not going to see very much gameplay at all this tournament. And Allegiance having a very rough time previously against that Ra. We saw how good those snipes were, and they obviously don't want to play it, and so they don't want to play against it either.
Yeah, and opting to take away the Najah, I think that that's a very interesting and a direct ban pick. Shoutouts to Ro from Allegiance pretty much. They really don't want him to try and get onto any kind of setup potential god to try and work with their cheetah. And you can see Direwolves automatically opting for the Amir. That could be a potential flex pick for them.
There's a lot of roles right now where Ymir is viable. You can run him in the solo lane, in the jungle, or support. Really all three of those roles. As long as your team is comfortable with it, you can work with it and run with it. Allegiance right now we see hovering over the Ratatasker. Pretty sure that's going to be thrown into the jungle, but that would not be the craziest pick for Cyclone. We do know that he likes to get a lot of those carries off, and so that Ratatasker could be a flex pick as well.
Yeah, flex picks coming out from either side, but at the same time, we know Zeus, that is not going to be a flex pick in the slightest. MLC definitely looking to try and carry on with the success that, you know, EU found earlier today. Maybe he can try and find his stride with it as well here later on. MLC's excellent at positioning himself properly. His team loves to set him up, so it could work out really well for ALG.
The Zeus pick will be interesting though into a Ymir, because Ymir having the ability to wall off Zeus could put Zeus into some very bad predicaments. Your positioning needs to be impeccable as Zeus to make sure that Ymir can't wall you off, because if he does, he's going to get a free freeze on you. So if your beads up, your beads are down now. If they're not up, you're going to instantly die.
And I think that it's really interesting seeing this Nike come out for Direwolves. I know that as far as Direwolves is concerned, I would honestly expect the Nike to be going into a role that I won't spoil for Twitch chat. I don't want to give it to them. I'll let them have the pleasure of guessing that themselves.
I don't even know where this is going, so we're going to see all together. We have the Geb over on the side of Team Allegiance. I like that paired with the Zeus, knowing that the Zeus is going to be in trouble against the Ymir. Pick up that Geb, which means that if the Ymir freezes your Zeus, you're ready for it, and the Geb can just shield you. You never have to use your beads as Zeus unless your Geb, for some reason, is either dead or away from you, and he pretty much will be with you the entire game.
Yeah, I also think that the Geb is going to be really important as far as trying to get a cleanse off for those Ymir freezes. You know, you don't want to leave your team in an awkward position, and considering that Ymir is pretty effective at walling off Ratatasker and Zeus, I think it's really imperative that the Geb is pretty on point. But I mean, from what we've seen of Polar Bear Mike, he's definitely a strong enough mechanical player to where he can definitely make it work.
Odin band coming out from Direwolves. They've seen that wombo combo of Odin and Zeus together, and they certainly don't want to accidentally deal with it again. We know the 667 is on that team, and they could throw the Ratatasker into the solo lane, and so they say, you know what? Play the safe ban. We've already got our normal bans out of the way, so we can go ahead and target that out to make sure they don't have that combination.
Yeah, and what I'm most interested in, if anything, I'm really curious to see what ALG opt for as far as ADC is concerned. Is Nami being hovered here? And I think that that's a really interesting decision to go for, because we're not really accustomed to seeing Oceans on this playstyle of Hunter, and as well as we aren't really accustomed to seeing Izanami find much success in general on the LAN stages.
Izanami is one of those gods where a lot of pro players look at her and they go, man, that is a good god, we should pull her out. And then every time she gets played, all of a sudden people are feeding and they're like, man, but in theory, she works so well. I do like it though, paired with the Geb. Geb's clear is not strong at all, especially going against a character like Ymir. They're going to have a very difficult time. So Izanami is going to be able to clear the way very efficiently and try to help out and make up where the Geb is lacking.
And now, as you can see, with the Ares lot coming in, that is not something that Richard Capsule is unfamiliar with. That's probably one of his most comfortable support gods to play. So for him to opt with the Ares, I think that it overall draws in the LG composition. And I know that you seem, where do you think that these gods are going?
Is that a Nikkei middle?
Yes.
That is absurd. I like it though. Red buff Nikke can do a lot of damage with her channel, especially if there's no ability to interrupt it. Zeus certainly isn't going to interrupt your Nikke abilities, which means that he's going to have to take the brunt of all that damage. If you get jumped on as a Zeus combined with that, that's going to basically just wipe you out.
Yeah, but this is definitely a composition I think that Dire Wolves feel super comfortable on, and they're all playing picks that they would honestly prefer, whether this was a scrim or, you know, on the live event right now. So I think that the comfort factor is going to be super helpful, as well as the fact that ALG are kind of opting for a couple of picks that we aren't really accustomed to seeing them on.
What about for you, Incon?
Honestly, both of these team comps are quite strong, but Dire Wolves is fielding so much CC out of their team. A Ymir, an Ares, and Nikke. I mean, this is an absolutely absurd amount of crowd control that they're going to bring to the table. If they can find a way to burn beads early into these fights and then disengage and wait for a re-engage once their abilities come back up, the beads will not be up in time, which means they're going to be in a lot of trouble getting pulled by that Ares.
All right, so quick fire. Here we go. Who wins?
I'm going to have to give it to the LG boys.
All
I
right.
give it to ALG.
Ooh, split on the desk. All right, guys, let's see how all this unfolds. We know that you are excited for this game and you want to get right into it. So it's our final PC match of the day. Let's go ahead and send it over to your casters.
Thank you very much, analysts, and thank you so much for keeping us entertained during that long break. Joining me, a couple of guys with some experience on the analyst desk and some experience filling in those long breaks.
I'm really excited to see all the control coming out of LG Dire Wolves. You know, they have the Ymir to really shut down a lot of these gods coming out of Allegiance that don't really have escape to get through that wall.
Yeah, this Nike mid, this is going to be hype. I'm excited. Everything's on the line. Will it pay off?
It seems that Dire Wolves actually wanted Nike mid before in their previous game, but it seems that it was taken away from them. Do you think that that was their game plan?
It absolutely was. Having lived with them for 2 weeks, watched their scrims and stuff, I've seen this pulled out before. And now they've got it. This is something they feel like they can really control the early game with.
So what about Nike mid that you've seen living with LG Dire Wolves has made it so successful for them?
It's just the early pressure you can put out in lane. If you can get mid waves and force the enemy team to defend their tower, it gives you even more access to their jungle.
Now, he's also going to have to worry a little bit about this Geb rotation every now and then. Now, you do have the knockup, so you could potentially just be looking to do it from a safe distance. But other than the Geb, he doesn't have anything else to really worry about, it seems.
No, you're right. There is a lot of cleanse on the Ares chains that are available for the Geb. But one thing, sometimes you're probably pretty familiar with, is that Ares in his flames, you can't knock him up as Geb.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good counter pick there if he can utilize the flames correctly, which I'm sure he can. We do see a couple of rafts out of the LG squad here.
Yeah, actually a big team fight breaking out here. Cyclone's been under 50% HP. Hog comes out, Weaken spinning there, but LG Dire Wolves securing their own speed buff. Maxon and Ochita, however, invade the red buff and take it away from Oceans.
It seems that the Wrath was used by Ochita, so a great invade already from Dire Wolves, getting a slight edge. And on top of this, we saw Cyclone Spin having to use the Wrath defensively, deflecting away that ALG invade.
Suntouch, with this Wrath being on Ochita, is there potential for him to be blown up by the Zeus without an active like a Sanctuary?
It's definitely possible, but I think because Nike's quite tanky, you have the shield ultimate, right? So it's going to be quite hard to burst them down. I think I'd like the start out of LG. Nice and aggressive, get ALG on the back foot. It's something they're comfortable with, it's their strategy, and I'd like to see them employ it here.
Well, so far so good on the side of LG Dire Wolves. They found the successful invade. It seems that Ochita knows what he's doing on this Nike middle. We'll see how it'll translate out for this now. They could potentially now continue on these invades with that Wrath.
One thing LG Dire Wolves struggled with in their last game was a lack of damage coming out from their mid lane and side lane. Obviously Nike early is going to get some pressure, but do you guys think it's going to be up to Maxon to be the one carrying this game and outputting the damage?
Well, it's going to be up to the rest of the team because there's 4 members from Dire Wolves contesting 3 on the side of ALG. The Wraths are not available, still on cooldown for everybody involved, but it seems that Dire Wolves, they just want to be able to zone away the rest of ALG, control the space, and then maybe look for this invade.
They're going to back away here now, or potentially look to bait in the members of ALG. However, Zeus does have really great control with that Chain Lightning. Weaken here taking some damage. The speed was still available. Chain Lightning coming out. Rogue bashing onto Cyclone Spin in the back. Weaken so low here, but just barely managed to get away. Richard Cass a little bit of trouble now, though. Kiki going to save his brother there. Speed buff still being contested between these two teams. Now there's 4 members of Allegiance here. Good freeze from Kiki Amir. Knock-up comes through from Polar Bear Mike, but the speed buff forced to LG Dire Wolves.
Successful invade from the Dire Wolves, and they're going to be able to walk away scot-free unless Polar Bear Mike has something to say about it. Going to be able to roll, but he just wants to get to that mid-wave, doesn't want to miss out on any gold or experience. So yet again, second successful invade from the LG Direwolves.
Suntouch, what would you like to see Direwolves do with this lead?
I think I mean, the gold's even right now. I think Direwolves are applying a lot of pressure, but they're not gaining a massive advantage out of it, and it might actually be putting them behind. They're doing a lot of freeway splitting on these buff camps, and I'm seeing quite a kind of big XP lead, or it's even, but I can see ALG kind of tearing away here.
Well, despite getting maybe 3-person sharing on the enemy buffs, as long as they have their own buffs to fall back to, eventually that lead will start slowly growing, especially if they're able to group up and constantly secure the Gremlins for themselves.
We heard on the analyst desk as well that Weekend often will find himself behind or giving up some kills and stuff just to be set up for his team. But, you know, with a Ratatoska, when you get so far behind, how much setup potential do you really have?
Ratatoska is more of this burst damage type of god. He has a setup with a stun, but you have to be really close to be able to use it efficiently. And if I'm Weekend, I don't want to be anywhere next to Kiki personally, because if you get caught by that freeze and the Geb is not nowhere next to you to be able to cleanse you, or you don't have purification, now you're in trouble. And also, you always have to be so careful against that wall.
Alrighty, mid lane now we see Richard Castle and Ochita here. Neither of them are level 5. Looking at Allegiance, no level 5s there, except for Cyclone Spin and Oceans, but the core 3 all still level 4. Right-hand side mid-camp's going to fall here to Weekend, who's just hit level 5 himself.
So there's been a lot of action already in this game, but there hasn't been any kills. So it's good contention by both teams, and better job of them being able to kite the opponent away from the buffs, being able to survive till the very last second.
Yeah, I think you can really feel the tension between both these teams. I mean, everything's on the line right now. The loser will go home. And I think the team of Allegiance might actually be a little bit tilted by that start. You know, it's very aggressive and not something they're used to, and they're probably kind of tense about that.
1v1 here in the left-hand side. Oceans looking to go a bit aggressive here. It's because Weekend's coming down from the sky. Good purification from Max, and then the ultimate comes out as well. So those are going to be on cooldown for the team of LG Direwolves. And you were saying before that whoever loses this game has to go home. That's not quite the case. They have to sit here for the next 3 days and watch the competition.
That's absolutely true.
That's got to be really brutal on your mentality moving forward. Whatever happens in this game, the loser having to move forward into Season 4. But remember that whoever wins this game is going to have a long, tough road ahead of them. The winner of this is going to face off against Energy.
That's going to be a very interesting matchup, either way it goes. And, you know, ALG actually came into this competition with so much momentum. Their game against Lich T, that was their first loss ever under this new roster.
I mean, to be fair, though, it was quite impressive play coming out of Nas. He wasn't even supposed to be here if it wasn't for the other player that did have those visa issues, but luckily for them, they were successful. But now, Richard Castle, though, caught alone.
Does have his ultimate available here. A lot of burst damage coming out of MLC Stealth. Great ultimate by Ro to peel away for his support. Richard Castle lives there with a defensive aura. Kiki walls off, but Cyclone's been still chasing him down. The damage, though, coming out of Stealth, and Polar Bear Mike is not available. Kiki slowed, however. Stealth is here. There's the ultimate coming out of the Ymir. Not enough to stop people, but there's the Hog trying to save himself. It's not going to happen. Kiki, first blood going to MLC Stealth.
Great first blood now, allowing this mid-mage to be able to separate the gap against the physical Nike. That's what you really want to do. Being able to get those levels, you'll start doing more damage, especially at a timing before the magical defense comes online. So despite successfully taking away the speed buff from ALG, they lose one in the process, giving a lot of gold to MLC Stealth.
Left-hand side, 1v1 again between these two hunters. Dark Portal comes through. Max in a lot of trouble here. His ultimate's available, barely out alive. Weekend's chasing along with Oceans, but the minions are there to stop them. Max in a sliver of health as he lives on the left-hand side.
And this is why Jingwei is such a great god, because the purification wasn't available for that second gank. The first one was forced in that encounter, so now as a result, it was just the ultimate that created that separation of distance, and then the agility being used. And now on top of this, utilizing the passive to get back to farming those back left Harpies.
And just surviving the gank is such a big deal because it's time out of Weekend's farm. He's dedicating that gank, and as you can see, he's falling behind. He's level 6 right now, Humbat's level 7, and that's why you need those big plays out of the ADC.
As well as that, Jingwei as well, even if she's forced out, her passive just enables her to get back to lane so fast.
It's just a great tool that you have at the hunter position. You're never going to fall behind despite yourself getting poked out ever so slightly. You'll always have the same itemization as long as you don't lose any gold under the tower.
Right-hand side mid-camp's going to fall there to ALG, so LG Direwolves, despite getting a lot of early pressure, mid-camp control has really been 50-50 this game.
It's been pretty slow start, I would say, for both of these teams. They're still kind of feeling each other out. They don't want to take any too risky plays here, knowing what's on the line here. they both want to be able to survive for day number 2, but despite almost dying that last encounter, Max is still playing a little bit up here.
He's a very aggressive player, always willing to take the 1v1, and you know, he's scrimmed against Oceans before, as was mentioned on the analyst desk. So he kind of is familiar with his opponent, whereas in the last matchup, you know, that's actually the first time OC's ever played EU.
But you always have to watch out for that global pressure coming out of Weekend. You have to have the wards very aggressively to spot out where he's going to be able to take off from to start flying through those branches.
He's going to take the left-hand side boards here away from LG Dials, and Maxon, you know, he might hear from the sound cues that these guys are there, and so you can see him actually playing pretty defensively.
Definitely also saw them walk over that ward, but despite that grouping up from Allegiance, they don't want to risk anything quite yet. They're not going to group up for that gold here, recognizing the fact that there is a Wrath available from Mochito, so you have to respect the possible steal coming out of Direwolves.
I think Allegiance are in a pretty nice spot right now. I think they're happy with where they're at. If you look at the team of LG Direwolves, they have two very immobile gods in the Ares and the Ymir, and against the Zeus, that's going to be very chaotic in the late game. He's going to be dealing a lot of damage to them. They're going to be unable to kind of really get out of those ultimates.
I think it's a win-lose situation to have like those double Guardians that are so immobile, but also having a lot of control, but grouping up around the speed buff though. They want to make a play, but here comes Weekend.
Weekend crashing down, knocks up two Polar Bear Mice here as well. Richard Castles in the no escape, doesn't pull anyone in except for Polar Bear Mike. Kiki Amiyo getting chased down once again by Cyclone Spin. Rose here jumps over the top. Great wall there by Kiki to stop the aggression, but ALG are still chasing.
They want to be able to find something in return. The speed buff does drop on the ground. Nobody's able to pick it up, so I'm assuming that Direwolves successfully taking that one away. So yet again, denying a little bit of mobility onto Weekend, which is so important, but now being frozen. The Geb Shield gonna top off Cyclone Spin, gonna get off a little bit of return poke in the process.
That's a great shield there, right on time to immune the damage from the Ymir too.
And what is going to be the plan for Direwolves is they want to be able to consistently invade the speed buff, it seems. They're not hesitating to take this risk, which also leaves a lot of space open on the left side of the map. So once these hunters start getting higher level, that's when you're going to have to be careful about overcommitting on the right side, because at any given moment, Oceans or Maxon could potentially just solo gold.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the other thing you could look at is them soloing each other. If you're 4v4 on the other side of the map and your Hunter picks up a solo lane kill, suddenly you're losing your tier 1 tower and you've got a lot of pressure over there.
Talk to me a little bit about this Nike mid build here. We see a Bluestone pendant coming out first, boots, and then a Mark of the Vanguard.
Yeah, it's just it's a nice rounded build. He gets that early game pressure with the Bluestone and then picks up the Mark of the Vanguard for the tankiness. It's also a pretty good item against Zeus because you get that like mitigation period for all his little ticks he does.
It's a small little power spike for the defense now because it seems that he wants to go for more of an offensive route. He's going to start building into that heavy mace. I'm assuming it's probably going to be that Jotun's Wrath, trying to get off more of these ultimates just to be a little bit more tanky, having that shield. And it's going to allow him also to get in and out of combat with that jump. So it's going to be interesting to see how he develops the rest of his itemization here.
Left-hand side, mid-camp spawning. LG Dials looking to contest it here. Clearing a ward. Polar Bear Michael walking around the outside. He does have the tank boots to mitigate some of the damage from the Ares. Mark of the Vanguard for him as well. Forced to use the Geb Shield. That's a big skill on cooldown now. Oceans round the side. The rotation spotted out by LG Dials. Maxon looking for Oceans. And now Kiki's here as well. A good wall could spell the end. We can actually force into his ultimate.
That's a great use of the ultimate just to be able to deter Kiki away from chasing Oceans. The stealth lasted quite a long time, so he wasn't able to find the right timing to be able to use that wall to catch out the Izanami.
They used the wall there to great success, though. Keep the left-hand side mid-camps all to themselves. Ward coverage around the Gold Fury, which we're just looking at, is all in favor of ALG.
Yeah, it's absolutely something that ALG wants to look for, but LG are grouping up for the gold here, and it's a pretty nice call. I think ALG would like to contest it, though.
Yeah, Gold Fury very low. LG Dials actually get it. Rowe burns his ultimate just to keep Allegiance away, but first Gold Fury of the game goes towards the Oceanic team.
And that's what you have to do. You have the double Wrath available. One on Kiki, one on Ochita. You have the defensive ultimate from Rowe, but ALG recognize this. There's no Hunbat's ultimate, and they're going to force this fight.
No escape coming out from Richard Castle. He's in the middle of 5 members of ALG. Zeus ultimate as well. Richard Castle under tower, but it's Kiki Amiyo is the one that gives up the kill. So a kill in return for a Gold Fury there. Nothing more, though, coming out just yet from ALG.
Still a 5-on-4, the left-hand side. We see the split push coming out of Maxon because of the rotations now, and it's going to favor ALG in the mid, but they're sacrificing their tower on the left-hand side.
I feel like a mid-tier 1 tower is important because it just unlocks access to so much of your own jungle.
It definitely is going to be able to favor ALG here, but the question is now, Maxon sitting at level 14, Ocean still 13, and now he's getting more of a power spike. We see him backing to base, finishing off the Icavile, and now he could be looking for more of these boxing 1v1s.
Yeah, if I was Maxim right now, I'd like to see him kind of step up his aggression. Let's try and get a kill on Izanami. I think he can pull it off. Xingwei's very powerful against that matchup. You want to dash in, and as Izanami uses the invis, you just can read where he goes, get the auto attack off, and then just use your passive to hunt him down.
So at the beginning of the game, we saw a lot of action at the start on the right side of the map, and now I'm expecting it to slowly transition into this gold tier. Now this is the timing window for these hunters to start taking off, and now with this tier 1 tower down the left, tier 1 down in mid, there's gonna be a lot of space control for both teams to be able to maneuver themselves as long as they have that important ward coverage.
Yeah, expand on that a little bit for me. How important is vision control in these types of games?
Well, whenever you have an Ares, you want to be able to hide around a corner, look for those chains. If you force the Geb shield just before your Ares chains, now you can have Ymir coming around the corner, look for that important freeze, catch one target out of position, maybe look for a wall as well, and then the rest of your team can easily capitalize.
2-man series there from Kikimir. Ro blinks in. There's the ultimate as well. He jumped over the wall into the middle of ALG, and now LG Direwolves are taking the fight to ALG. Polar Bear Mike rolling away. Ro extremely low there. Cyclone Spin picks up the kill. They're looking for Ochita. Maxa comes down from the sky. Weaken crashes down onto Richard Castle. Doesn't land the chain. Still so much damage there with the chain lightning. Cyclone spins around the back. Polar Bear Mike just sitting there as a shield bot. Cyclone picks up Mac and weaks it. Picks up Richard Castle. Kiki picks up the return kill. Actually, it's Ochita. And Ochita's got himself a double.
2 for 4 already so far. Trying to go for the third one. Stealth is so low. He did so much in this team fight. The jump not going to connect, but it did CC them for a little bit. Now, a deicide. Allegiance now finally finding something back into the game despite losing that earlier gold fury.
What a beautiful slow there from Oceans. Ochita knocked up 2 members and was chasing down Stealth, but Oceans hit him with a slow there, so he couldn't catch up to MLC Stealth.
Stealth did so much work in that team fight, getting off so many chain lightnings, so many detonates. He basically eliminated Ro at the beginning of that team fight.
Yeah, that was incredible. What an amazing team fight to watch. Probably one of the best we've had in the tournament. And LG Direwolves, nothing to be unhappy about. A very close fight, lots of low targets, a bit better shot calling, a bit better target calling, and they could have easily come out across.
And more importantly than Stealth being able to do the damage, it was PBM that was able to really peel for Stealth with those shields, with those knockups, making sure nobody from Direwolves is going to touch his mid-mage Zeus.
One thing I've been surprised at is that Polar Bear Mike's been able to kind of keep up in farm with Richard Castle despite going Mark of the Vanguard and not getting Watcher's Gift.
No, definitely that's an interesting fact as well to point out. That's also because of the fact like, the gold fear was taken earlier on now, but with the respawn coming around for 1 minute 15 seconds, unfortunately that DSI was at a slightly misfortune timing, but I'm sure they're going to be able to happily take that, being able to cut the lead because they were almost down 2,000 gold, and now they're only down about 100.
Yeah, it was a really nice comeback by them. Oceans with a great rotation. He didn't get any kills, but he had such a great damage output in that fight. Really impressive.
I'm really expecting a lot more out of LG Direwolves. They have to be a little bit more careful about being out of position because we saw how PBM was able to initiate that through the wall, but now being left in a 1v2 spot. Kiki using his ultimate, but a nice sanctuary out of Weaken, just still punching this Ice Giant.
Kiki Beer just staying alive for as long as possible, trying to buy time for his team. No Gold Fury available, so they can't take that while he's being ganked here. Weaken picks up the kill there. He used his ultimate. I feel like perhaps he didn't need to.
I don't think he needed to either, but he wanted to be able to make sure he confirmed the kill. But now on the left-hand side, Maxon, 1v1 against Oceans. Ultimates are being traded, but now Maxon having to back off. He's going to be able to utilize that passive to get back in position, and more importantly, maybe start the gold. And recognizing this is Oceans, and he's trying to get in position because the respawn is in less than 10 seconds.
That Ymir gank was crazy. That was a long gank, and I'm surprised there was no rotation from LG Direwolves on that. It seems they kind of just expected him to die and didn't really try and counteract.
The timing of it allowed maybe for Direwolves to look for a counter gank at the very least. They did force out the ultimate, at least out of Weaken, to be able to get that factor, but the Ymir ultimate was used. However, there is a bunch of CDR on his side, so he's going to be able to get that a little bit more quicker. So we'll see if there's going to be a little bit of a trade-off here. So there's going to be a standoff around this gold.
Cyclone Spin chucking out that Umbrella Ring there, not finding a target. He's looking for Ro. He's just forcing away LG Direwolves, not giving them any vision of this Gold Fury as ALG decide to de-ward.
And this is what you have to do as a solo laner. Just zone out the enemy opposition, especially around the Gold Fury. Absorb these cooldowns. It doesn't matter because you could also utilize your Geb shield to be able to negate a lot of this damage over time. Getting the Gold Fury under half. Nobody here from Direwolves to contest.
They need to re-engage here. Polar Bear Mike, though, blinks in, gets the Cataclysm ultimate. He's being chunked down now by Max and Weaken. He's got his ultimate back. Richard Castle, though, gets the no escape on, pulls in Polar Bear Mike. Weaken knocks up two, especially, most importantly, on a Maxon. No fear, no evil there from Ro. Weaken forced to dash away here. Ro's so low, trying to get the kill onto Oceans. He can't. Cyclone's got a double onto LG Direwolves.
And it was great job from Allegiance finding the Gold Fury, so they're able to walk away now. Not losing Oceans was so key, but they're not done yet. Kiki finding the freeze, but it's a 3-on-4 now. The wall being able to cut off PBM. Cyclone Spin, though, he's in a little bit of an awkward position. The ultimate is being channeled, but it's not enough damage. It's only a level 14 Ymir with no real offensive items.
Look where Weaken went then. He went immediately and invaded the speed buff of Direwolves, so Ro's not going to have that when he respawns.
And this is so perfect because he extended that to the back left. Back right Harpies is still stripping away the jungle side, so extending that advantage, being down 2,000 gold earlier on. And now Allegiance has a 2,500 gold lead. This is the ALG that we've known to expect to see because before, earlier on, losing to Lich, before that, when they made this new roster, they have not lost a game. They went undefeated in the Gauntlet, and they went undefeated in Super Regionals.
3 words, really. Polar Bear, Michael. Some of these shields, these fights could be whitewashed by LG Direwolves. They are definitely hitting every single one of their ultimates, every single one of their abilities. But once again, Polar Bear Michael, shield after shield after shield, just completely protecting his team.
And this is why he opted to go for the Breastplate of Valor very early on, recognizing the fact that he is against a Ymir and an Ares, 2 guys that you definitely have to make sure you have the shield for at a very regular basis.
Continuing on the theme of builds here, talk to me a little bit about this Ritual Dagger being picked up by Kiki Yomiya on the side of LG Direwolves.
Well, it was going to be able to pick up, but he did. I did see that actually, the Ritual Dagger from Kiki, but he did sell it, picking up the Wing Blade, which is a little bit more optimal for Ymir because of how immobile he is. He needs to have that movement speed, get that 300 health online, just to be able to absorb a little bit more abilities.
Yeah, we'll help him get out of that Zeus ultimate, which is where he's kind of really getting focused down here. Help him run away from the Vimana as well, which is, I think it's a really good item choice, actually. I think even maybe Ares should pick one up if it's possible.
Just to be able to get in position to find those chains, hide around those corners. But now Cyclone Spin, look at him, he's in a 1v2 spot, and he's just bullying Ro away.
Good wall there from Kiki, but yeah, you're exactly right. Cyclone Spin, you know, one of these players not afraid to kind of show off his lead and fight 1v2.
Especially when he has a 3-level lead against his Ymir opposition. 0-4, unfortunately, for Kiki, trying to find his way back into the game. It's not something you really want to be as a Guardian Soul laner. You don't want to be this far behind.
Good, again, great Geb shields from Polar Bear Mike there, just keeping the damage away from his team. It's not even been using them necessarily in life-saving situations, but just to reduce the amount of initial damage they take.
He has nothing to really worry about when he's paired up with Cyclone Spin playing this Vimana. He's going to be able to absorb so much damage with that Spirit Sword, with a Breastplate of Valor, almost finishing off the Wing Blade. Great jump from Mochida, preventing the stun from coming out. But now, it seems that Allegiance, they really want to start playing aggressive with this lead, at least in the solo lane.
A big talking point for me would be, again, the lack of the mage. It's something we touched on in their last game, and they've gone with the Nike mid here. Is it costing them in the team fights? You know, we see a lot of people getting away on low HP. Is that as a result of not having this big burst AoE mage? When you look at Zeus's damage, he's top in the charts.
And it does seem that way because there's no magical defense really on the side of Allegiance because it's not necessary. You have a Ymir that's slightly under-leveled compared to Cyclone Spin, right? He doesn't have any offensive items. And then you have Ares, level 13, as the support role. Obviously, he's going to be building into a more tanky spot. Reinforced Greaves, Mark of the Vanguard, and Tamatu.
Left-hand side, mid camps fall, but Allegiance getting a good flank maneuver on here. Richard Castle gets 2 chains to prevent the rollout, and the dash from Weaken. Ro jumps over the top here. MLC Stealth looking to get a chain lightning off. Ro actually had to blink over that wall to get away.
He was very worried about getting initiated on, so using that defensively, that's huge potential now taken away from LG Direwolves. They don't have that offensive blink for a good 100 seconds.
Maxon here trying to fight towards the left-hand side. Ocean's going to take the tier 1 tower on the left-hand side away from LG Direwolves. Mid lane, again, Cyclone Spin here, just 1v2. No fear whatsoever, pushing LG Direwolves back towards their own base.
ALG now with over a 3,000 goal lead. They're grouped up around this tier 2, between the tier 2 mid and tier 2 left-hand side. Being able to knock up Richard Castle, though, going to walk away. They got off a little bit of poke, and that's all they really wanted.
they want to prevent Richard Castle from going in frontlining and initiating for his team. They want to get him to low HP. With the lack of sustain on either of these teams means that poke is so much more important in this game than compared to others.
And at that point, if he blinked in with half health, they would just burst him down during the no escape, no problem, especially with how much less mobility he gets during that ability.
Absolutely, and you see Ocean there with a 007 score, James Bond himself, the well-known ADC out of NA. I'm really liking MLC Self's build there. Nice and defensive, keeping himself alive, and he hasn't died yet.
He's doing a great job, being very useful in these team fights, but now a blink cataclysm out of PBM. Richard Castle getting very low, and this is what we were talking about. He's just getting taken out immediately.
Oceans gets the kill there. Fear No Evil from Row as well, just to try and peel for his team, jumping over the wall, but Polar Bear Mike's chasing him out while Cyclone Spin chases out Max, and that's a lot of the damage for LG Direwolves. Ochita forced to jump into his tier 2 tower. Doesn't have his ultimate available here, so he's very vulnerable. Knocked up here. 5 men from ALG. Cyclone Spin picks up another kill. Tier 2 tower on the left-hand side is going to fall, and that should be a free Gold Fury for Allegiance.
2 for nothing, no problem for the boys out of North America. Now extending their goal lead even further after this objective has been complete. They're able to really dominate this mid to late, and this has been a different team than we've seen against Lich.
Exactly right. They're seeming to... I guess maybe it was a little bit of nerves. Like they were talking about on the analyst desk, a lot of these players haven't played in front of necessarily such a big crowd before.
It seems that way, if you would think, but during Super Regionals, it didn't seem like they had any nerves at all. They were just shouting at their opposition. They're a very vocal team that's not afraid of anybody, I would say. I just think that they were surprised more than anything against the raw pick coming out of Lich. But now look at this, LG Direwolves, they want to get back in the game, and they're trying to force this Fire Giant.
The Cyclone Spins here, he slows Row, 4 levels below the solo laner from Allegiance. He needs to back away very quickly.
And with that, that's going to be able to stop LG's Direwolves' intent to slowly get back in the game. Great recognition from Allegiance, the fact that they have to respect the double rouse. Even though they are on cooldown, you always have to assume that they're ready and available, especially with the burst damage coming out of that Ymir ultimate.
Yeah, and the problem they're having as well is they just can't kill Zeus, right?
They can't get to him.
Yeah, they just can't deal with him, and the Geb Shield's always there. He's got this really tanky build. I'm struggling to see how LG Direwolves are going to be dealing with that.
And even if they're going to try to position themselves to get closer to Zeus, they have to worry about level 20 on Oceans, having the Deathbringer complete. He's just going to meld anybody that's trying to hurt MLC Stealth here.
On top of that, the big baby just stomping you down.
5, 1, and 6 is Cyclone Spin. He's doing a great job in the mid to late game here. 24 minutes on the clock. Allegiance with a 10-kill lead, extending their goal lead now to 7,000. So already trying to advance to day number 2.
You know, we mentioned before, they do have a long road against NRG, but you know, no matter which path you take, you know, crazier things have happened in SMITE. You know, there is the curse of the #1 seed.
Absolutely. It seems like Rowe wanted to go in, but it's going to be Richard Castle instead, finding 3 with the ultimate, pulling it 2, but now Weekend's going to split the team fight.
They're diving on the backline now. Fear No Evil comes out. They're looking for Oceans here, but a great Sanctuary keeps them alive as Weekend picks up 1. Oceans picks up Rowe. Only 3 members of LG Direwolves here. Ochita forced to jump away. Kiki Ymir between 5 here. No escape for him. He's going to fall down. Cyclone gets another kill. The solo laner from Allegiance has shown up this game, and he's showing up LG Direwolves.
Look at all the health pools out of Allegiance. It's low, but nobody died because of all the lack of magical damage. That's going to be 4 for nothing now. Allegiance, they're not done yet. They don't want Fire Giant. They know they can easily peel away this mid-Phoenix. They could even go left here if they wanted to, but I think a safer way would be for Fire Giant.
They could end the game here.
They're trying to go for the end here. They recognize that they have the advantage. The big baby comes out of Cyclone Spin. The double knockup from Ochita. And that's it.
Wow.
They qualify for day number 2. Allegiance are your victors.